Let's move on to item number 31. If 2x, 5x minus 2, and 20x minus 24 form a geometric progression, find the positive value of x. Did you go for 1.5, 2, 3, or 4? What do you think? We have to remember that in a geometric progression, if you are given the first three terms, a sub 1, a sub 2, and a sub 3, we have to remember that if you divide the second by the first, it's equal to the third divided by the second. With such, we could say that by the multiplication property of equality, you will have the square of the middle term, or a sub 2, is equal to the product of the first and the third term. So we have to remember this. And this will also be applied to the next one, to this particular problem. So if I square 5x minus 2 here, because it's the second term, it's equal to the product of 2x and 20x minus 24 as shown. Squaring 5x minus 2 gives you 25x squared minus 20x plus 4, whereas multiplying 2x and 20x minus 24 by the distributive property of multiplication over addition or over subtraction, you will have 40x squared minus 48x. Now, so manipulating the equation and having only all the terms on the left-hand side so that the right-hand side will become 0 gives you negative 15x squared plus 28x plus 4 equals 0. And multiplying both sides by negative 1 gives you 15x squared minus 28x plus 4 equals 0, which is actually factorable as 15x plus 2 times the quantity x minus 2. And from here, equating each of these factors to 0, you get either negative 2/15 or 2. So if the first one, if x is negative 2/15, and substituting all x's here by negative 2/15 and simplifying, you will get negative 4/15, negative 8/3, negative 80/3, giving you a common ratio of 10. So this is indeed a geometric sequence if x is negative 2/15, because you have a common ratio. For the second case, if x equals 2, you will have the sequence 4, 8, 16 if you substitute each of this by 2. With that, you could see here that in this particular case, 8 divided by 4, 16 divided by 8, you have a common ratio of 2. We're looking, indeed, it's a geometric sequence. But since we are looking only for the positive value of x, thus we will get x equals to letter B. 31. Find the sum of the first, 32. Find the sum of the first 6 terms of a geometric sequence with a sub 1 equals 4 and r equals negative 3. Did you have negative 728, negative 630, negative 540, or negative 360? For this case here, I hope you could still recall that for the meantime, I will be using the long method. You will have this sequence or series rather. Because the common ratio is negative, it's understood that they will have alternating signs. So times 4 times negative 3 will be negative 12. Negative 12 times negative 3 will be plus 36 and so on until negative 972. Multiplying both sides by negative 3, each of these terms will be multiplied by -3 to produce this particular series. 4 times -3, it's -12, and I align them. -12 times -3, it's 36. 36 times -3, it's -108, so and so on, until -972 times -3, which is 2,916. And I have to subtract them. You could see here that these terms here in the middle are in fact equal. So subtracting both sides of the equation will eliminate all of these: -12, 36, -108, and 324, and -972. Subtracting them, S sub 6 minus -3 S sub 6 will give you 4 S sub 6, which is equal to, this one here has nothing in the bottom, so 4. And here, since you are subtracting, this will become minus 2,916. And simplifying the right side, it becomes -2,912. And dividing both sides by 4 gives you the sum of the first 6 terms, which is -728. I hope you got letter A. And if you did, great job. 33. Find a sub 1 of a geometric sequence is that if f sub 4 equals 360 and the common ratio is 3. Did you go for 9, 10, 11, or 12? For this particular case, we have to remember that these are the two givens, and that we could see here that n is 4. How come we see n is 4? Because that is the subscript here. So with that, we have to recall the formula for the sum of, if you have a geometric series. This is understood that you have a finite geometric series and that your common ratio is not equal to 1. By substitution, you will have S sub 4 is equal to A sub 1 times the quantity 1 minus, I replace the R with 3 and the N with 4. In fact, all N's were replaced by 4, all over 1 minus 3. So simplifying what's on the inside, this is A sub 1 times the quantity 1 minus b to the 4th, which is 81, all over 1 minus 3, or -2. You could see also further that the value of S sub 4 based on the given is 360. So it's here. So simplifying 1 minus 81 gives you -80. And the rest were copied. -80 divided by -2 gives you 40 times A sub 1, which is 360. And dividing both sides by 40 gives you A sub 1, or as the 9 as A sub 1. Letter A. I hope you got it as well. 34. Find S sub 8 of the sequence with 2,560 and 1,280 as first and second terms, respectively. You could see here that the terms are decreasing. The first term and the second term have the same signs, by the way, and that the second term here is smaller for this one. Okay, so I'm referring to a geometric sequence here. So you could actually see that the second term is smaller than the first. So this is actually telling us that your common ratio is less than, is more likely is between 0 and 1. Okay, so with that, we could see that your first term is 2,560. And to get the common ratio, you have to divide the second by the first term. So 1,280 divided by 2,560 will give you 1/2. And your N is 8 because you are going to get the sum of the first 8 terms. With that, you have S sub n equals A sub 1 times the quantity 1 minus R to the N, all over 1 minus R. And by substitution of these variables, you have S sub 8 equals 2,560 times the quantity 1 minus 1/2 to the 8 all over 1 minus 1/2. This is 1 over 256, and the denominator here is negative 1/2. So if you divide by negative 1/2, you are actually multiplying by 2. This one is 1 minus 1 over 256. All right. And from here, sorry, this should be positive rather. It should be positive 1/2, I mean, because 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. If you divide by 1/2, you are multiplying the whole thing by 2. That's why it's here. And times 2,560. And the difference of 1 and 1 over 256 is 255 over 256. And simplifying this expression gives you 2 times 10 times 255, because this one will become 10. And that is 5,100, letter A. I hope you got it. 35. Evaluate the summation of 0.6 raised to n as n goes from 1 to 7. Express your answer as a decimal to the nearest hundreds. Did you go for 1.46, 1.89, 2.10, 2.23? We have to remember that if you get the first term of this sequence by substituting or replacing n by 1, you will get 0.6. Replacing n by 2 gives you 0.6 squared or 0.36. If you replace n by 3, you will get 0.6 cubed, which is 0.216. And is there a common ratio? Yes. Because if you divide the second term by the first, or the third term by the second for this one, you could actually get a common ratio of 0.6. And since you have a common ratio, this is telling you that this is a geometric sequence, and we have to get your geometric series here. So the geometric series formula is still applicable here. So replacing a sub 1 by 0.6, your r will be 1/2 and your n will be 7, because you're having the sum of the first 7 terms, because that's from 1 to 7. So you will have this expression 0.6 multiplied by 1 minus 0.6 to the 7th all over 1 minus 0.6. Using your calculator, this simplifies to approximately 1.46, letter A. I hope you got it as well. 36. Is x equals negative 3 a root of 2x cubed minus x squared, 8x squared plus 4x minus 3? Which do you think of these choices is correct? To determine if x equals negative 3 is a root, we will replace all x's by negative 3. If the value of the expression is 0, then negative 3 is a root. But if not, it is not a root. That is why you have 2 times the cube of negative 3 minus 8 times the square of negative 3 plus 4 times negative 3 minus 3. Simplifying this gives you 2 times negative 27 minus 8 times 9 minus 12 minus 3. And using your calculators, you could actually get negative 141. From here, you could see that since the value of the expression at x equals negative 3 is not 0, then negative 3 is not a root of 2x cubed minus 8x squared plus 4x minus 3, letter B. 37. 3/4 of the participants in a regional training program are from private universities. 2/3 of these are from teacher education institutions. If there are 96 participants, how many of them represent private teacher institutions. Did you go for 72, 18, 48, or 24? For this one, remember that 3/4 of them are from private and 2/3 are from teacher ed. That's why you have to multiply 3/4 times 2/3 times 96. And doing such, the 3 divided by 3 is just 1. 2 divided by 4 is 1/2. That's why I have here 1/2 times 96, which is 48. So 48 of them are from private teacher education institutions. Letter C. 38. If f of x equals 2x minus 3 and g of x equals x squared minus 1, find f of x. Take a look at the choices and determine which do you think is the correct answer. From this one, the g of x won't matter because you will simply operate f of x. This means that the entirety of f of x will be substituted to the x of f of x also. That's why you will have 2 times the quantity 2x minus 3 minus 3. I simply replace the x with the entirety of f of x. Distributing, we have multiplying this will give you 4x minus 6 equal minus 3 here still. And the whole thing is 4x minus 9, letter C. I hope you got it as well. 39. A total of 75,000 is deposited into 2 simple interest accounts. In one account, the annual simple interest rate is 5%. In the second account, it's 7%. The amount of interest earned for 1 year was 4,050 pesos. How much was invested in each? So, take a look at the choices, pause the video, and try solving. For this one, I let x to be the amount invested at 5% and y be the amount invested at 7% interest rates respectively. So the total investment is 75,000. So the sum of x and y is 75,000. And remember, this is annual, so this is PRT. Remember, simple interest is PRT. So the principal is x times the rate, which is 0.05, times 1, which is 1 year, the time. That's why 0.05x is the interest for 1 year for x amount. And for the y amount you invested at 7%, the interest per year is 0.07y. And the total of these two interests is 4,050. Okay, in this case, I did substitution. From the first equation, I subtracted both sides by x. And from this one, the second equation, I multiplied both sides by 100 to clear off decimals. That's why I have 5x plus 7y equals 405,000, yes. And I replaced all y's with its value of 75,000 minus x. That's why you have this equation. Distributing this, you have 5x plus 7 times 75,000 is 525,000 minus 7 times negative x or negative 7x equals 405,000. Manipulating the equation gives negative 2x equals negative 120,000. Dividing both sides by negative 2, you get the x value of 60,000. And for y, if you wish, That's, remember, 75,000 minus x. And x is 60,000. So y must be 75,000 minus 60,000 or 15,000. Hence, letter A is the correct answer here. 40. The intersections of sets A and B is defined as A intersection B is a set of all x such that x is an element of A and x is an element of B. If A, B, C, D, and E, if A is a set containing A, B, C, D, and E, and B is a set containing A, C, F, and G, find A intersection B. Did you go for A, B, C, or D? Now, from this one, when we speak about intersection, it's all about the common elements. And we could see that A and B has two common elements, namely A and C respectively. The rest were not common to both of them. Hence, A intersection B is the set containing A and C. C is correct. I hope you got it too. 41. The sun is approximately 1.44 times 10 raised to 11. Okay, the sun is approximately 1.44 times 10 raised to 11 meters from the earth. If the light travels 3 times 10 raised to 8 meters per second, how many minutes does it take light from the sun to reach earth? 8, 20, 28, or 30 minutes? We'll see. From here, we know that time is equal to distance over rate. So we have to divide these two. Okay? That's why you have 1.44 times 10 to the 11th all over 3 times 10 to the 8th. If you could see from here as well, 10 raised to 11 divided by 10 raised to 8 is 10 cubed. But still you have this expression, 1.44 times 10 cubed. You simply move the decimal point 3 places to the right. That's 1,440 all over 3. That's 480 seconds. However, we are going to express the answer in minutes, and a minute has 60 seconds. So dividing 480 by 60 gives you 8. Hence, it would take 8 minutes for light to reach Earth. Letter A. 42. Lynn Santos is paid a salary of 5,000 pesos per week plus 10% commission on a net sale over 50,000. What is her gross wage if her weekly net sales is 70,000? Okay. Let's see. Did you go for A, B, C, or D? From here, she will get 10% commission only on items above 50,000, right? Since her sales is 70,000, we could actually see that above it is 20,000. So the only thing that she will get commission from is from this 20,000. And we see that 10% of 20,000 is 2,000 pesos. And this 2,000 pesos will be added to her base salary for that particular week. Hence, she will get 5,000 plus 2,000 pesos or 7,000. Letter B. I hope you got it. 43. In 3 dimensions, where is the point located if x, y, and z is equal to 0? Is it xz plane, origin, yz plane, or xy plane? Take note that you have 3 axes, your x, y, and z axis, and if they are all 0, it's actually implying that they all meet in a point known as the origin. It's the intersection of the 3 axes. Letter B. All right. 44. It costs a ladies bag manufacturer 400 pesos to produce a ladies bag that sells for 550 pesos. How many ladies bag must a manufacturer sell to make a profit of 60,000 pesos? Did you go for 400, 150, 250, or 200? From here, you could actually see that the profit per bag should be can be determined by subtracting the sale for that one bag. I mean the cost for selling one bag and the capital for that bag. Hence, 550 minus 450 minus 400 rather will give us 150. So 150 pesos is your profit per bag. Since your profit, you must sell, or I mean, your profit should be 60,000, and is that you envision that your profit is 60,000, then since you have a 150 profit per bag, then you must sell 60,000 divided by 150. So 400 bags. Letter A. 45. If set A is a set of the rational numbers under multiplication, is not a group, which of these properties was violated? Did you go for closure, associativity, existence of identity element, inverse property? Note that these are the four properties of a group. So when we speak about closure, it actually satisfies closure. Why? Because if you multiply any two rational numbers, the result will still be a rational number. It's also associative because multiplication of rational numbers is associative by nature as well. The identity element of of multiplication is 1, and 1 is a rational number as well. Hence, identity property is satisfied. However, inverse property is not satisfied. Why? 0 is a rational number. But there is no rational number that could be multiplied to 0 to produce the identity element, which is 1. Hence, it does not satisfy the inverse property, D. 46. Find the amount of compound interest and the compound interest compounded quarterly of in 5 years on 20,000 pesos at 8%. Okay, find the amount of compound interest when 20,000 was invested quarterly in 5 years at 8% rate. Which of A, B, C, or D do you think is correct? Feel free to pause the video if you wish and solve. To do this problem, this is in fact the formula for compound interest. That is, P of F, or final amount, is equal to P sub O, or the principal amount you invested, times 1 plus R over S, and this is raised to ST, where R is the rate and S is the, if it's quarterly, then 4, if it's monthly, 12, and so on, and T is the time in years. By substitution, you have 20,000 times 1 plus your rate, it's 8%, so 0.08 all over. Since you're investing it quarterly, quarter 4, so you will have it, your S will be 4, raised to 4 times 5 years. Simplifying this using your calculator gives approximately 29,718 and 95 centavos, letter B. 47. Perform the indicated operation and reduce to lowest terms if needed. Okay, take a look at 47. From here, did you answer A, B, C, or D? From here, what you could actually do is factor. Remember, if you divide, you are multiplying with the reciprocal of your divisor here. If you factored a squared minus 1, that's a minus 1 times a plus 1. If you factored a cubed plus 1, since it's a difference of, a sum of two cubes, and using the convention, this could be factored as a plus 1 times a squared minus a plus 1, and multiplying it with this one as well. You could see that this a squared minus a plus 1 will cancel. The a plus 1 will also cancel, leaving us a minus 1 in the numerator and a squared in the denominator, letter A. 48. Point -3, -4 is on the terminal side of angle theta in the standard position. Find tangent theta. Is it 4/3, -3/5, 3/4, or -4/5? When we speak about your angle in standard position, so it's understood that it's rotated from the positive side of the x-axis. And since the coordinates here are both negative, then the terminal side of the angle should be found at the fourth quadrant. At the third quadrant. And this has coordinates -3, -4. So this is -3 units long, but this is 4 units long. But they are both negative in this case. But their actual distances are positive, but it's represented by negative because negative in quadrant 3, both x and y are negative. And we know that tangent theta is opposite. And by the way, always note that if you draw your triangle, your theta is always with respect to the x-axis. So your opposite here is -4, and your adjacent here is -3, and that's 4/3. Letter A. I hope you got it. 49. Find the area of the region bounded by the curves y equals x squared and y equals x. Did you go for 1/6, 1/2, 1/3, or 3/4? So finding the area of the intersection of two curves involves integral calculus. So first, it's better if we know their points of intersection, and these points of intersection will serve as limits of integration. So equating the two and subtracting both sides by x, you have x squared minus x equals 0. It's factorable as x times x minus 1 equals 0. And by the zero property of multiplication, equating each to 0, you get x as 0 or 1. Now, what happens if x is equal to 0? You could substitute either to any of these two equations. For the meantime, I will substitute in the y equals x. If x is 0, then y is 0. So you have there the coordinates of a point, 0, 0. If x is equal to 1, then y is also 1. So another point of intersection of these two is the point 1, 1. And this is how it looks like. You have a parabola and you have a line. And indeed, 0, 0 and 1, 1 are their points of intersection. If you draw your vertical strip here, you see that the upper portion of the rectangle will be touched by the line here in blue, by this function. Hence, that's why I have here, it's, remember, upper minus lower. That's why x minus x squared dx. And you will integrate this function as x goes from 0 to 1. Why 0 to 1? Because these are the limits of integration, because these are the limits of excess. Or the, yes. So with that, integrating x minus x squared, by the power rule, you add 1 to the exponent, and whatever the exponent will also be your denominator. This will be x raised to 1 plus 1 or 2 all over 2 minus, you add 1 to the exponent, it will become x cubed. But 3 is your exponent, so divide it by 3 as well. And you have to evaluate this as you go in this limits. So you will substitute 1 to this equation. It will be 1 squared over 2 minus 1 cubed over 3. You also have to substitute 0 to this whole thing. That will be 0 squared over 2 minus 0 cubed over 3. And this is in fact a theorem. That's why, and you have to subtract both of them. And that will give you 1/2 minus 1/3 here. This will be 0. You have 1/6. Letter A is the correct answer. And one more. I hope you got it. Find the distance between the points negative 3, 2 and 5, 3. Did you go for square root of 45, square root of 55, square root of 65, or square root of 56? From here, you could actually utilize the formula, the distance formula. D equals the square root of the quantity x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 quantity squared. And substituting those values, this will be your x sub 1, y sub 1. This will be your x sub 2, y sub 2. That's why you have 5 minus negative 3 quantity squared plus 3 minus 2 quantity squared, and you have to take the square root of the whole thing. The inside simplifies to 8 squared plus 1 squared. 8 squared is 64 and 1 squared is 1. So the radicand is 65. So you have there the square root of 65 units. And 65 has no perfect square factors except 1. Hence, this is already in its simplified form. If you answered letter C, you got it correctly. Okay, with that, I hope you learned something out of today's discussion. TYVM, thank you very much, and a great day to one and all.